So there is finally another affordable Windows tablet, a 2-in-1 here. And this model's from Chuwi. No surprise there because they used to be really well known for these more affordable Windows tablet offerings. And this model here is called the Hi10 Max. And it has a 12.96-inch screen, this Windows 11 tablet. The resolution of it is 2880 by 1920. And it does support 10 touch points. It's fully laminated. It's a very nice screen. And you can get this optional stylus for it called the Hi10 pen. And this here has 4096 pressure sensitive levels. Another optional extra is this, the type cover style keyboard like a Microsoft Surface. In fact, this whole setup here is very similar to a Microsoft, say, Surface Pro 3, 4 kind of era. So we're talking a while back, but it's running here the Intel N100. It's not a super powerful chip. It's quad core only. Maximum turbo is 3.4 gigahertz. It's paired up with 12 gigabytes of RAM in single channel, unfortunately, but that's all the chipset supports. 512 gigabytes of PCIe 3.0 storage, and it does have a around 35 watt-hour battery. All right, so let's have a look at the weight here of our Hi10 or the Hi10 Max. That's just the tablet, so 780 grams if you include the type cover and the kickstand. That brings it up to 1.4 kilos. And this is what is included in the box. It's our Type-C charger, 36 watts. That brings the total travel weight up to 1.53 if I'm rounding up here, which I think for an almost 13-inch tablet and a more affordable one like this isn't too bad. Our active stylus, this has 4096 pressure sensitive levels. The tip here is replaceable. In fact, Chuwi do include one in the box. Well, I'm just about to lose it. So it's just a little plastic nib, and that's the tool there to pull it out. And good that they do this because a lot of brands wouldn't even probably bother. It also comes with the quadruple A battery that it requires already pre-installed. This is it right here, okay? And those are expensive batteries, and you can't just commonly go and buy them. Like I normally have to order them from Amazon. So we have a button here that is the erase button. That's the right-click mouse button. And I'll be testing out those 4096 pressure-sensitive levels later in the video. So that is one of the optional accessories you can get. And this is the type cover style keyboard. Now this keyboard is very similar to what we had with the Surface Pro 3, 4 from Microsoft. I mean, it even smells the same. I think it may be from the same ODM that was originally making those type cover keyboards for Microsoft. The travel on it is decent, and it is a backlit keyboard too as well, which is excellent. Touchpad is my complaint here, that it's a little on the short side, but you know, they're only working with just shy of 13 inches, so it's not too bad. The sensitivity could be a little bit better, but it is manageable, it's usable, but I find myself wanting to resort to a mouse, I think is just a little bit better. But it is a good keyboard, nice layout, arrow keys, okay, they are half size, but overall I like it. And when it's flat, there's no bounce or anything, and you can prop it up one level here, there is a magnet. So just like, again, the old Surface books that we used to have, sorry, the Microsoft Surface Pro series. So the poker port pin connector clips into the bottom there. Now we have two parts to it. So this is the rear part that is on our Hi10 Max tablet. Now it's not the top part that you actually have to bend down, not the bottom. So I've just done that wrong there. It's actually the top. The top is not where the powerful magnets are. It's the bottom side to it. See, and you can angle that up. So that is how you prop it up, and you get the different angles to it, and it clips in there nicely. And if you want that upper level, then you'll see it clips into the top there with that magnet. Now, this magnet's not that strong, and when typing on this, you do get a little bit of bounce there. So when it's lying flat, you get none of that. But for ergonomics, of course, propping it up, it is a little bit better. And now you can see that backlit keyboard too in action. The rear of it is made out of this alloy with this space gray finish. It looks good. We have the Chuwi branding here and this very large, ugly sticker and the Intel inside. You could probably pull those two off if you wanted to do so, and the serial number is here. So rear 8 megapixel camera, and the camera that is up the front, this one that's just there, that one is 5 megapixels, so good enough for us to take at least that rear camera photos of, say, a whiteboard, notes, or whatever you need to, some text or something, but you probably use your mobile phone, and trust me, it's going to be way better quality. But I will give you a sample now of at least that front-facing camera, what it is like for video calls.
So this is exactly what you can expect out of it. Either side, there are microphones, as I've pointed out in the video, and the audio quality could be a bit better. This quality from the front-facing camera, it is okay. So if you need to play, say, some Skype video calls or any other video kind of chat software or whatever, at least you have that front-facing 5-megapixel camera.
And we have the loudspeakers either side as well. Now these are 1 watt each. They're not amazing. I'll give you a sample of them now. So the thickness of the tablet is 9 millimeters. We have some cooling here. So this is where the hot air is going to be pushed out. Tiny little fan inside. Now to open this, I don't recommend it. Now there is an SSD that is replaceable. That's the only thing. And that is a 2242 in size. And to do so, you might end up damaging this because you need to pry these layers apart here. And there's plastic around this part that connects into this, and if you break those little clips, then it won't ever go on the same. So that's why I'm not going to open this up. So that's the only thing you can upgrade. A little intake here, tiny little intake vents, and our volume up and down power on button. Along the bottom, the Pogo port pin connector for our type cover keyboard. On the right, we have our 3.5 millimeter microphone support, USB 3.1 type A, and then we have another 2 USB 3s. Now, these are Type Cs and 3.1 Type C that supports video out, power delivery, and data. So it's good, both of them. But then we also do have this HDMI 1.4, which is our micro HDMI port, and you can see a status LED. 319 euros, and we're getting a very good display. Now, that resolution, you can't see any pixels. Touch accuracy and response I found to be good. As I slide this around, you can see it looks a little bit laggy there, but that's just Windows. Now, the calibration out of the box does have a blue tint to it. You can see now that this is the calibrated view, and, well, uncalibrated and then calibrated. And see how before it's looking like it's got a bit of a blue tint. Now this is normal. Most of this stuff, especially this price point, wouldn't be calibrated out of the box. But if you use or have something like what I have here, my Spider X Pro, then I calibrate all of my displays. But let's have a look at the color gamut too from this. So we are looking here at sRGB of 98%, NTSC is 70%, and Adobe RGB 76. I mean, this is very good for, again, factor in that price, 76%. So it's a really good screen. The brightness I have a bit of a complaint with. Now, not the maximum brightness. So the maximum goes all the way up to 347 nits that I have measured with my Spider X Pro here. But look at this. The lowest setting is far too bright for me. So I often just run it on this lowest possible setting. Now, I wish that hopefully with some sort of BIOS update that Chuwi could address this issue and just make it a bit lower. I would like to see that go really dim. You can see from about the 10-point mark here of brightness downwards doesn't really make much difference at all. So that's a little poor to see. That's the only real complaint from me. It's fully laminated, so there's no ugly gap. So here we are in Windows 11 Home. So it's not the Pro version it comes with, but Home, it's version 23H2. Of course, run all the updates, get everything all up to date there. We have 12 gigabytes of RAM, so not 16, which would have been ideal. It's single channel only. That's all that the N100 will support. So we'll go from the 800 megahertz is the base low-end clock rate up to 3.4 gigahertz. And for just general kind of use, Windows does feel reasonably quick and snappy. No real problems with it for basic kind of task swapping between things. So ideally it's for like YouTube, Chrome, spreadsheets, stuff like that that you can run. And here is just a document that I was having a quick look at. I wanted to see that would it lag out with something like this if I just decided to change some of the text around and whatnot. No, this seems to be all fine. It's not going to completely bog down like sometimes that would have happened with the Atom chips. I'll bring up a spreadsheet here. So this has quite a few entries. It's a relatively large one. All right. And again, same story. Let's just jump into some of the text here and I'll quickly edit this. Typing on the keyboard. And no, it does not seem to be laggy for this kind of thing. So basic work on it is what it's good at. Media consumption too as well. Video files I'll check out now because we have the Intel graphics, integrated graphics is going to handle this. So first up is the jellyfish file. And I'll just make sure I mute that. And this should run, I hope, without any problems. So a little slow to start, but actually that's running pretty good. That's not really dropping any frames. However, I haven't got it at full screen. I'm looking at this now. Yeah, that is good. Okay, so something like this, which is quite a high bit rate, this is 4K, it's HEVC, 10-bit, and 140 megabits per second. Really, that did run just fine decoding that. Let's try this Sony Swordsmith one. Now, this is 4K 60. Again, a little slow to open, but actually, this is looking very good. So that's decent performance there from the N100. So for the basic computing needs of pretty much everyone, it's going to work just fine, and does. Couple of benchmarks here to run through, and these are the only ones I'm going to run because there's no point. This is low end, as you can see. This is our integrated graphics score, so the Intel UHD, getting just over 4,600 for our graphics score, CPU score, coming up to almost 3,500. So as I said, so it's low end there, nothing special, nothing amazing. And the SSD, so this is not too bad. Now it is a 22 by 42 millimeter sized SSD, and be pretty hard to get in there to upgrade this. So 512 gigabytes of storage, and it is PCIe 3.0, and those speeds, okay, the writes aren't the fastest, but the reads are decent there. And finally, Geekbench 6 single core score, getting over 1100, and then multi-core score just over 3000 points. So it's a low-end quad-core chipset we have here from Intel, that N100. And that Stylus, which is the H7 pen that I do recommend you get, not the H8. So the H7 has the 4096 pressure-sensitive levels. The H8 does not. That is just like using your finger on the screen. So one other thing I forgot to mention is that the refresh rate is just 60 Hertz, not 120, which would have been ideal with the screen. That could make everything a lot more fluid, but 60 is what it is, what we have. And again, with the price of this tablet, I think that it's still reasonable, and it's a very good screen that we do have. So we have the pressure sensitive levels with this of 4096. So I will just press light here and start to press harder. You can see the line is becoming a little thicker there, although it's quite hard to notice here. I'm using bamboo paper. So pressing very lightly and then harder. And with the plastic tip here and the plastic screen protector, yes, it leaves a bit of a scratch behind. So you might want to remove the screen protector and just use the plastic tip on the glass then. It won't be then scratching it because it's using a soda lime glass, but it's not a Gorilla Glass type of glass. So you have to be extra careful with it. Now, does it work right up to the very edges? Let's have a look. It does. Okay, so that is good to see. And I'll just quickly right here, a little, whoa, all right, okay. Palm rejection doesn't seem to be working with the Stylus, although it should here with bamboo paper. But what I did is I ended up triggering gestures just then. So that was not good. I noticed that the screen, when you press down on it, there is a bit of flex, perhaps a little bit more flex than that I would like here. But overall, it's an okay experience with the Stylus. Just use the erase button now. And yeah, it's okay. I would not, this is definitely not like the Intrigue Styluses, Wacom Stylus, or the Surface Pen and whatnot. This is a level below, certainly. It is decent, but not an amazing stylus experience. Now, this Intel graphics is not for gaming. This is set to 720p, and I've got Counter-Strike on the lowest possible settings, and we're struggling to get over 10 frames per second. So this is very poor performance. So I would not be gaming on this at all. It's just not the type of tech, the chipset for this. I mean, I'm struggling here to get any shots because it's just so poor, this deathmatch mode. And what are we looking at here? Down to 8 frames per second. So yeah, forget about gaming on this. As for our thermals, well, they are good. 73 degrees Celsius is the maximum. This is during gaming benchmarks, everything else that I've been using. So the fan makes a little bit of noise. It's very hard. In fact, I can't really capture it properly. It makes a tiny bit of noise. If you're pushing it really hard, you will hear it, but it cuts out pretty quickly. And just under normal kind of loads, light tasks, you're not going to hear that fan. So the thermals and the fan noise does check out here. Finally, very quickly, Linux, yes, you can run it. And just touching the screen now to have a look at the touch. Yes, touch is working. Audio does seem to work. And Wi-Fi. So good news if you intend to run Linux on this. Just use one of the latest distros. Recapping now with our Hi10 Max, I think the touchpad is very good. The keys are great. Backlit keyboard I didn't really expect either. And the only criticism from me really of this is that the touchpad is not amazing. It could be a little bit more sensitive. It's quite short, but that's what we have with the almost, well, just under 13 inches of space that they have. I don't think it's bad at all. And it's very similar to a Surface 3 Pro, I think was the first one. Well, the Surface 2, then the Surface 3 had this style definitely of type cover style keyboard. And it's very reminiscent of that. It even smells the same. I feel like it's probably from the same ODM, the same manufacturer there. And of course, the hall sensor comes into play there, that when you close it, it is now off the screen. You can fold it up and you have a 1.5 kilo package here. Now the kickstand at the back, so that folds down from the top. It's a little confusing at first when you get it because you want to fold the bottom up. At least I would, used to the Surface 2-in-1 tablets from Microsoft, of course. And then that screen is back on. So the biggest thing I think here that it's got going for it, apart from, of course, that fantastic price, 319 euros, it's very good considering the screen it has. So it's the screen. Great screen, and the resolution, that 2880 by 1920, means that sharp enough you're not seeing pixels. Brightness is okay, 300 and close to 50 nits that I measured with my Spider X Pro. I think that's fine. Indoor use, it's still alright. It is very reflective, fully laminated. The stylus, yeah, not amazing. I don't think this is a very good stylus. I think I would rate it as, I'll give it a 6 out of 10. So it could definitely be so much better than what it is. I find that maybe it's a bit to do with the chipset as well. The latency isn't amazing. It can sometimes skip around a bit. Palm rejection is a bit patchy too as well with it. So that's one thing there. Thermals have been good. Fan noise is, you don't normally hear it unless you push it really hard. And that N100 from Intel, okay, 3.4 gigahertz max turbo, quad core only. And as I showed you just very briefly, there's no point me showing mini games. It's not a gaming device at all. The gaming performance from the UHD graphics is, in 2024, horrendous. Not good at all. But factoring all this value here we have, okay, 379 euros if you get the keyboard, the stylus, and a tablet. And just 319 for the tablet alone, I think, is a decent price for what is on offer here. So Chuwi is back with these more affordable offerings, which is great to see. It's far from perfect, but if you're after just something for emails, spreadsheets, websites, and all that kind of light work, then this is able to do it. But this brings me then onto the biggest con I discovered with the Hi10 Max from Chuwi here, and that is battery life. So it's around about the 36 just shy, so around 35 or so watt hour battery capacity, and it is low powered. However, the screens are, it's a big consumer there. It's using a lot of power, and even at the lowest brightness setting, it's too bright, right? So battery life is around 3.5 hours with light work. 3.5, maybe you can squeeze it out to 4 if you are lucky, using maybe flight mode or something, and this is with the wireless arm. So battery life, not amazing here, but that is the full story of the Chuwi Hi10 Max. Thanks a lot for watching this review.